so everybody can hear me, even if I talk away, even if I step away, right? Which I'm probably not going to do because I'm just going to need to hang on to something. Um, as women's ministries leader here at the church, I opened up the website and it said, oh, August 22nd is a women's ministry Sabbath, and the topic is an awareness of abuse. And I thought, whoa, all right, so that was just like 3 weeks ago that I realized this, because I'm new as leader of the women's ministries here at the church. So today's topic is going to be specifically about psychological abuse. I know there's a lot of information about physical abuse. There's been a lot of research done. I think in terms of physical abuse, there's obvious consequences, but not so often consequences with psychological abuse. So let's start with the definition. I'm going to read this. Psychological abuse sometimes is referred to as emotional abuse. It can be caused by a person who knowingly or intentionally subjects or exposes another person to behaviors that may result in psychological trauma, including but not limited to anxiety, chronic depression, or post-traumatic stress disorder. So months ago, and thinking about what I was going to present, months ago, Ron did a sermon, and he invited us to be a community, to know one another. And there were people who stood up in the congregation and shared about themselves and shared about having asked others in the congregation for help at times in their life. And for me, it made it pretty apparent that, what you all know of me is coming here Sabbath, going to women's ministries, groups, so forth. I know Debbie a little better and family are here a little better, but you really don't know me. And I was abused psychologically, and I thought I might share my experience with you as a way for you to know me, not just the smiling face who says Happy Sabbath when you walk in, but also the that other side of myself. To do that, I want to start by sharing some personal information about myself, and this means looking back. I like to say looking back, but not staring. I think if you imagine yourself, for example, driving a car, and all you do the whole time is look in the rear view mirror, your side mirrors, you're going to be in trouble pretty quickly. So I think it's the same in life. I think as driving a car, you need to know what's going on around you. You need to know what's coming from behind you, on the side of you. And I think that's true. It has been in my life anyway, that looking back has been helpful. It's been educational at times, insightful at times. When if I were strictly looking forward, I might not understand, might not fully comprehend something going on in my life. So those are my few words about looking back. A glance at my family. My grandparents on my mother's side, unfortunately, died within 6 months of one another when I was 1.5 years old. So I never really knew my mother's parents. And I understand that my grandfather took me like everywhere. If he was going downtown, he'd put me in the car with him. So even at a year and a half, uh, I had a loving grandfather that unfortunately I never knew. On my father's side, it looked a little different. My grandmother, who I was named after, died at age 33, and left 5 children to my grandfather to raise. My grandfather was an alcoholic, and he was a physical abuser. Now, I know this because of family story. The youngest girl, there were 5 kids. The youngest girl, my dad was the oldest, by the way. The youngest girl was sent to the nurse's station. She wasn't about to change into gym clothes. This was years ago when they had gym clothes. The nurse noticed bruises and went to my grandfather and said, "This will not happen again, or I will contact the authorities." Well, you better believe that, well, I hope those kinds of situations wouldn't happen today. There would be no nurse going to the abuser and say, "Stop it." There would be action pretty quickly in that situation. My mother was raised in a Christian home, Methodist. I don't know if I could. I doubt she missed church much. I mean, she went to church every Sunday. She went to high school, graduated in 1938, and the year married my dad, and had 4 girls with my father. I'm the second born. Mom lived to be over 100, and that is a whole other story. She was a delight. My father, as I mentioned, was the oldest of 5. He was, I think, 13 when his mother died, and left school at 16 to help with the farms. There were several of them. He enlisted in the Army and served in the Philippines, where he was injured. And when he got home, it became apparent that he was not going to be able to farm because of his injuries. So he managed to get his GED. He had left school at 16, but he got his GED, went on to accounting school, moved us all 50 miles away from the rest of our family. And he was an alcoholic. My dad was quiet. He was quiet and didn't communicate with us an awful lot. He wanted to be a farmer very badly. I should highlight that, because I think to some extent that may account for how he presented himself to some extent. He really did want to be the oldest son taking over the farms. That wasn't to be. What I remember was that after he became an accountant, he went to work, and then he would come home. And he would be home by 5 o'clock, because 5 o'clock was supper. And if you weren't there at 5 o'clock, you didn't get supper. This was my mother. I never saw him drink. As far as I can remember, I never saw him drunk. He provided for us, basically provided for us. And at about age 50, he stopped drinking. And never drank alcohol again. Unfortunately, not drinking doesn't change your personality. It doesn't mean just because he stopped drinking, he became, engaging with us. When he died, I can't tell you the number of people who identified themselves as alcoholics who came up to us and in one way or another said how much they appreciated Pa and his support, his counsel. What? his counsel? What do you mean? I, I never got any of that counsel. We never had any conversations about much of anything. If I needed, I babysat to make money. I made my own clothes. I mean, there really was, I needed shoes, I guess. Anyway, there really wasn't a lot of conversation with my dad. He was very quiet, very sad, didn't smile much. I didn't see my folks talk much. They didn't argue. I mean, that would mean they'd talk. If they were arguing, at least they'd be saying something to one another, right? So my models for how to be in a relationship were kind of limited, I look back now and not very fulfilling. They didn't appear to be a loving relationship. We rarely did anything as a family. I think there were a couple of times we went camping. But basically, after grocery shopping on Friday night, if Pa felt generous, he'd let us buy a big bottle of soda, and the four of us would have that and popcorn. I remember once at about 13, just I knew that they didn't seem to like one another, and I said to my father, why don't you do something with Mom? Now I'm a 13-year-old. Do something with Mom, like go bowling or something. I don't remember what he said, but obviously they never went bowling. Now, I guess we need to get on to me. So that's where it came from. It came from that. Those are the highlights of the environment. It doesn't mean that there wasn't joy. It doesn't mean that there weren't positive things in my life. There were a lot. But in terms of the things that I think drove me in the direction that I ultimately went, I think those bits of information are important as clues. So I was a second daughter. At age 3, I was spanked. I was riding my tricycle down the sidewalk, and I was being called back, and I just kept pedaling. And boy, I got paddled, and I deserved it. At age 6, my older sister and I were more than paddled with a crate slat for something insignificant. I would say I deserved it if I had deserved it. I did not deserve it, and neither did my sister. My mother knew it. And again, my mother shows up. Touch those girls again, I will call the police. Now, this is a long time ago, because I'm old. And she was ready to call the authorities if he touched us again. So when my father went to school, it meant our whole family moved. And we moved into a second floor flat in a house. And I remember opening the door to the bathroom and seeing a bathtub, turning the faucet on and having hot water come out of it, and the other faucet had cold water, and I was in heaven. So it was a second floor flat for 6 of us. I was happy. There was a bathtub. So we were poor. Might as well, just say it. We were poor. I didn't know it. I babysat, made money, bought fabric, made myself clothes. My mom taught me how to sew, which I've, been very grateful for. I took to it. There were fun times with my mom. I can remember chasing her around the house and just laughing hysterically. So when I think back of what controlled my behavior, because all 4 of us girls were basically good girls, we didn't get in trouble. We weren't in trouble in school. Of course, they could spank you back then. Again, I'm old. And back then, teachers could spank students who were not behaving. So I don't think that my behavior was controlled by fear of abuse, but I think it was controlled by fear of what he might do. What would my father do? I didn't know. After high school, I went to nursing school, married a high school classmate, had 1 child you've already met, and divorced after 13 years. After my divorce in my 30s, to help me through that, I sought the help of a therapist, and for the first time began to realize that my life just wasn't looking through just driving the car, that there were things that were moving me and I wasn't in control, that there were things that were from the past influencing my choices, and I just was totally unaware of it. So it really became an era of looking at myself a little more and doing a lot of self-examination. So there were workshops and seminars and during this time, one of the seminars, there was this idea expressed that you love your parents and your parents love you. Now, this may not be, it came out in this seminar. It wasn't true for everybody. Not everybody agreed with that. I took it to heart. I really thought about it because nobody ever said I love you to me. Nope, we just didn't. So I decided to go home, tell them, sat them down, had a heart to heart. I said, I know you love me and I want you to know I love you too. So from that time on, my mom caught it. She got it. She got it 100%. So at that point, we're expressing that to one another when we are heading home, when we're ending a phone conversation. For my father, end of a phone conversation was like that. My mom would say, I love you, dear. That was what she always said. I love you, dear. My father, when I'd say, Pa, I love you. Uh-huh. That's what I got from my father. Uh-huh. Except this one time. this one phone call. And I said, I love you. And he said, I love you. And he didn't stop himself. He didn't stop himself. And obviously, it's been a long time, and it still moves me that he was able to say that to me. Oh, I had to read through this every time getting ready, and it did this every single time. So I guess it's about love, isn't it? It's about love. Oh, man. Part of the scripture today said, love thy neighbor as thyself. So, love thy neighbor as thyself. Love thyself. Love myself. Well, at the extreme, loving yourself is narcissism. There's that guy who looked in a pool of water. His name was Narcissus. He looks in a pool of water. He sees a reflection of himself, and he falls in love with the reflection of himself. And that's where narcissism comes from. It's someone who loves themselves more than anyone or anything else. I'm not talking about narcissism. I'm talking about what I have experienced as loving who I am, even with the faults, even with the flaws, even with the lousy choices I've made in my life, and I have made a whole bunch. It means loving myself and giving myself that love so that I can look about change. What do I have to do to make this better? If I have done something to hurt someone, how do I make amends to that person? So I think, comes from honoring that I am a person who wants to do that, and you have to like yourself. I used to beat myself up. It tears me up when I hear my older sister say, "Oh, I'm so stupid." And I say to her every time, "Jean, you are not stupid. No, you are not. No, I've done dumb things, but I don't call myself dumb. I've done some dumb things." So even with all of that, self-exploration, finding out about myself, and glancing back, choices got worse. Choices got very, very bad. What was I thinking? I wasn't thinking. So as it turns out, I found myself a real alcoholic to marry. I found myself a person who was a narcissist, who was a pathological liar. Now, I mean, really, life got worse by a long shot. So here's some of the things that happens when you're in a relationship like that. So there's gaslighting. For anybody who's unfamiliar with that phrase, it's where I say, in my experience, this hymnal is red. But the other person says, no, it's not red, it's green. It's green. and insists that that is green to the point that you begin to question yourself. So you're feeling a certain way. Well, no, you're not feeling that way. You're feeling that way. No, I'm feeling this way. No, you're feeling that way. And you lose some trust in yourself, being able to figure things out for yourself. There was total control of finances, criticism. You're the wounded one. Fear that I might do something that would start a fight. If I held my lips in the wrong way, if my eyes looked in the wrong direction, I might very well hear about it. Excessive blaming. Things were my fault. Nothing was his fault, always mine. Cycles of kindness and rage, never knowing what I was going to get. And manipulation to get what he wanted, which a lot of this stuff is. So I ended up with depression and PTSD. I was at that point sort of like an alcoholic who hits bottom. It's like, whoa. I needed help. And I think here's where kindness and God showed up completely in my life. Began with just a mention that I thought I should go see a therapist. Well, right then and there, I got the name. Right there. I didn't have to call around. I didn't have to. There was the person's name, someone who was felt to be very good. Called an appointment. I told one of my grandsons about the situation that I was living in. And his response was, months ago, we were at your house and I thought something wasn't right. And I started praying for you. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I thought I was acting just the way I always acted, but he saw something and did something. He did something that he didn't even tell me he was doing, right? I was looking for a house. I bought a house at auction. It got me out of the abuser's house weeks early. And my last bid on that house was to the penny the amount of money I had to spend on a house. It was a house in a neighborhood you would have loved. I loved. It was my healing place. The neighbor across the street, there was a married couple across the street. They have remained friends. You know what his name is? The same as my abuser. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it was part of my healing to be in the space with someone who loved me like a neighbor, right? Whose name initially generated all kinds of emotion. It was a place where I felt safe, even though I looked out the windows whenever I heard an automobile, fearful that it might be him. Any strange noises, fearing it might be him. So it took a while, and I recognized the PTSD diminishing. I was grateful for the therapist to help me get grounded again. I needed that grounding to make sure I wasn't absolutely crazy. Might as well say it. The neighborhood was wonderful. There were I could call on several of my neighbors for anything that I wanted. I know that's the fact. I know that's true. I moved here, and before the moving truck was empty, my neighbor came across the street with her dog and said, "Hey, as soon as the truck is empty, let's have tea." And we are friends, have been friends since that day. The neighbor who mows for me, same name as my abuser. Again, I don't think about the abuser now. Do you see the importance of that tiny little fact that God placed in my life men with the name of my abuser so that I would be able to stand here today and talk about this, and not have any reaction at all. So I get here, I begin to attend church here. Obviously, I'm stronger now. What helped me through was the kindness and support of others, always. Sometimes they're just being friendly, sometimes they noticed and responded. I received prayers that I didn't even know I was getting. It's not always possible to know the effects of the kindness that we put out there. If someone's hurting, a kind word could make a difference. It did for me. It could open a conversation. A kind word can open a conversation with someone who may be in difficulty. A simple question like, "Is there something I can do? Do you need help?" And then do what you can. You can't always do everything, but we can at least offer support to people who are in trouble. So I guess whenever you have a choice or a chance, be kind. So here's the rest of the story. I guess I've always been looking for my father's counsel. That counsel I didn't get. Love and support. You might have picked up that. I'm sure you have. So God, my Father, knew me and has always known me. He placed in my path what would ultimately lead me to here. Today, I know my Father, and I know my Father loves me and says it in undeniable ways. I've found my loving Father here in these pages and in this church. And I will be forever, ever grateful for his guiding hand in bringing me here to be with you. I'm very, very grateful. Join me in our closing hymn. I don't even know what number that is. 183. I will sing of Jesus' love. Oops, I think I did Hardy's job.
Hymn, I Will Sing of Jesus' Love, Church Hymnal 183. praise my heart shall give. He has died that I might live. I will sing his love to me. Oh, the depths of love divine, whether heaven can never know how that seems as dark as mine can be made as white as snow. I will sing of Jesus' love, endless praise my heart shall give. He has died that I might live. I will sing his love to me. Nothing good for him I've done. How could he such love bestow? Lord, I own my heart is one. Help me now my love to show. I will sing of Jesus' love, endless praise my heart shall give. He has died that I might live. I will sing his love to me. Let us pray. As we leave this holy Sabbath and step into the new week, may the Lord place his hand upon you to protect you. May his face shine upon your home, your family, your work. May you find and offer kindness as you go in peace. He is coming soon, and may his grace remain with you always. Amen.